So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the fashion industry. Mostly I'm going to be talking about sustainable fashion, fast fashion, thrifting, and the social economic side of it and how all of this impacts the environment, because no one thinks about too much how much the fashion industry and clothing industry and just textile in general affects the environment, but it does a lot, and I will get more into that later. But I'm gonna talk about all of that, give you lists of brands that are very good, brands that are not so good, and just generally try to bring some education to this topic that I don't feel like gets talked about enough. I'm gonna show you how to alter some clothes, tailor clothes, so that you don't always have to go out and buy new stuff. If you have something that kind of fits, but you just don't really wear it because it's not perfect, I'll show you how to fix that. And that's also gonna be a big point in the video. So yeah. I hope you enjoy, and please ignore the weird lighting. I don't have anywhere in my room that has good lighting. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is sustainable fashion versus fast fashion. So sustainable fashion is fashion and clothing that all of the materials are ethically sourced. Typically they tend to pay their workers more of a living wage, and brands that are sustainable focus a lot on their impact on the environment and how to minimize that. So, lots of good stuff. The downside of sustainable fashion is it does tend to be a lot more expensive. Not all brands are totally crazy, out of the way, tons and tons of money, but a lot of them are more expensive, and that is because all of their materials are ethically sourced. They pay their workers more, and so they have to charge more for their product, and they tend to be of higher quality, so they will last you a lot longer. If you buy a pair of jeans, say from the brand Reformation, which is a really good sustainable brand, they'll last you years and years. But if you buy a pair of jeans from, say, Forever 21, not really a sustainable brand, then those will probably wear out within a year or two and you'll have to go get a new pair. Which brings me to what fast fashion is. Fast fashion is fashion that changes constantly. It's what a lot of people think of when they think of the fashion industry, like the seasons of fashion, when oh, that's out of season, that was so last year. You know, that whole thing? That is fast fashion. And that is when brands don't source their materials ethically, tends to not pay their workers well. Sweatshops are a big thing in the fast fashion industry. And brands like that, the clothes are a lot cheaper. However, they're cheaper and you will have to replace them. They're cheaper at first, but then if you, again, back to the jeans example, you buy a pair of jeans, it'll fit well for maybe a year or two, and they'll get worn out, kind of start to look not so great, so you're like, oh, I'll just go get another pair of jeans, I'll get another cheap pair of jeans. And then you've now paid for that same pair of jeans twice. And then another year you'll have to pay for them a third time and a fourth time, and so on and so forth. And that's the loop that you get stuck in fast fashion. And that loop can be very difficult to get out of, especially if you don't have a lot of disposable income to pay for the more expensive sustainable brands. All right, another example to kind of explain the difference is this one I'm going to talk about now. So let's say we have two workers. One worker has a lot of disposable income, he's a little wealthier, and one worker does not have a lot of disposable income. He lives more paycheck to paycheck. These two workers each need a pair of boots. So the wealthier worker, he puts down $100 for a really nice pair of boots. They're gonna last him years. And the not so wealthy worker, he can't afford that same $100 pair of shoes. So he's gonna buy a $20 pair of boots that they're not great, they don't fit him as well, they're just they're overall not so good. And they are gonna wear out after 1 year of use. Now, the guy that spent $100 on his shoes, those shoes are gonna last him his entire life. And that's very sustainable. Less shoes go into the landfills, less shoes get thrown out. He has the one pair of boots that are gonna last him for ages. And then this other worker, he's bought his pair of shoes, they wear out after a year, and he's like, well, shoot, I don't have money for the nice expensive shoes, so I will buy another pair of $20 boots. And so he goes and he buys the next pair of $20 boots, and they wear out after a year. So the next year he has to buy another pair of $20 boots, and another, until eventually he's spent way more than $100 on boots. But it's because they wear out, so he has to keep buying more of them. Versus the guy who bought the $100 pair of boots, well, he doesn't have to keep paying. people who are wealthy can afford to buy something once. People who are not as wealthy have to buy things many, many times because they can't afford to put all of that money that they spend down at once. And that is a big difference between sustainable versus fast fashion. All right, so you have heard me now talk about fast fashion and how much of fast fashion gets thrown away. How much of it gets thrown away though? Because you think, well, maybe I throw out like a shirt or like a pair of jeans after I outgrow them or after they're like worn out and stuff, but like it's not, like it can't be that much. That is not entirely true. In 2018, landfills received 11.3 million tons of textiles and clothes. That was 7.7% of everything that was sent to landfills. And the total amount of textiles that was combusted, like burned up in 2018 was 3.2 million tons. That's 9.3% of all of the trash and garbage that was burned up. That is a lot. The one shirt that you throw out, the like one pair of jeans that you throw out every year, that builds up over time a lot. And that's obviously, that's all textiles, that's including like sheets and curtains and towels and all of that stuff, but clothing is a big part of it. Clothing is the main contributor to that, actually. So how can you avoid sending so much stuff to landfills, especially if you are in the fast fashion loop where you don't have the money to buy sustainable brands? Well, you can donate stuff to thrift shops. Thrift shops are great. If you donate to them and buy from them, then you can get really nice clothes for a much cheaper price, and you're not feeding into the manufacture of new clothes, so there's less clothes that are being brought into existence to get thrown out. And it's good to buy from thrift shops because things that don't get bought in thrift shops, that gets sent to the landfills. It goes, at least this is how it works at Goodwill, which is my thrift shop of choice. It goes to the main Goodwill, then it goes to the Goodwill bins, and then it goes to the landfill. And I like to go to Goodwill bins because it is even cheaper than regular Goodwill, which is great. So yeah, I recommend donating and buying from thrift shops. I think it's a really great option, and it helps send less and less stuff to landfills because, like I just said, tons and tons, legitimately tons and tons of clothes get sent to landfills every year, and it is really bad for the environment, especially because a lot of clothes are polyester. They don't break down very well. So yeah, moving on to actually altering clothes. Let's get into that. Right, so I have a couple items of clothing that I'm going to be altering, tailoring, whatever you really want to call it. So first up, we have this white collared shirt. Oops, sleeves tucked in. We have this white collared shirt that I do like a lot. It was a bit long when I got it, so I cut off the bottom, but I was too lazy to ever give it a proper hem, so it's just a raw hem right now, and I will be hemming that. And then I have this pair of pants that is actually my sister's, and she wanted me to take the waist in because it's a little bit big on her. But aside from that, they fit her very well, so there's not much I have to do on that. And then same deal with these shorts. These are mine, but they are a little bit big in the waist, and I would like not to have to wear a belt with them all the time. So those are the items that I will be altering, and the darts to take in the waist and also the hem that I'm going to show you is easy enough to do. You can do them on any article of clothing to alter how they fit. And for materials you need, I would recommend a sewing machine. You can do this by hand, but it will take a pretty long time, and depending on the fabric, it might be pretty difficult. But aside from that, you need pins, needles. Measuring tape is not necessary, but it is very helpful, and I will be using it. Then you need a good pair of scissors and thread. And that's pretty much all you need for all the alterations that I'm going to show you. So yeah, so the first alteration is the hem on this shirt. I've folded a little bit of the fabric to the inside and pinned it in place, and I'm going to do a straight stitch all along where I have it pinned on my sewing machine, which I have right here. So I will show you the end result. This is the finished hem, just a little straight stitch along the bottom to clean it up a little bit. And yeah, that's what the shirt looks like. So moving on to the next one. Okay, so for the next alteration, I want to take in this pair of shorts that I've turned inside out, and to take in the waist, I'm going to put a 1 by 4 inch dart on each side. So I've measured 1 inch in from the side and then measured 4 inches down and marked each spot with a pin, and I'm just going to do a straight stitch from one pin to the other, and that should take in the waist about the amount that I want to. So yeah. Okay, so that is what the finished dart looks like. This is what it looks like from the outside. I lined it up with a seam that was already in the shorts, so it's really not very noticeable. Yeah. Alright, and for the last pair of pants that I'm altering for my sister, I already put in 2 darts on each side, but I think I want to take 1 dart in at the back, so I'm going to use my seam ripper to remove this belt loop and add 1 final small dart right down the seam at the back. Alright, final dart is added, and now all that's left to do is reattach the last belt loop. Because of how thick the fabric of these pants are, I think I'm going to hand sew the belt loop on, just because sewing through that many layers of this thick fabric would be pretty difficult with my sewing machine. So I'm going to hand sew that on. Alright, and the belt loop is securely attached. So that is all of the stuff that I was going to show in this video, but one last little bonus thing is something that was less of an alteration and more of a total flip, which is this cute little mini dress, which used to be mid-calf length and it just wasn't a really flattering fit, so I took up the bottom, made it into a nice hem, and then I brought in the waist with another dart at the back of the dress, and I think it turned out very cute. So that's another sort of thing you can do. You don't just have to adjust the size. You can really adjust like the whole style of whatever it is that you want to alter. I even altered the extra fabric from that dress into a nice little tube top. So yeah, you can really go anywhere with altering clothes, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye!